Hello everyone, Burb here. We have the Valentine banner in a couple of days, so today I'd like to talk about Eishin Flash Valentine. We will talk about Valentine Bourbon in a future video in a day or two. This will be both a banner review as well as the overview of this character. I try to incorporate as many aspects of this character as possible into the video, at least the ones I can think of, in a way that's probably a little too deep than necessary. But without further ado, let's just begin. So as for the banner, if you like this character, you have 30,000 carats, and you have a pull plan, and you are able to pull for an Uma right now without sacrificing the proper support cards that you need in the future, feel free to pull for this video. If you need a bit more validation, while this character does not have any top meta implications, she is quite good on medium tracks in particular, and she can be run in longs. She has some viability, she has a bunch of stuff that helps her with late surging. Every character in this game is viable. If you want a more practical answer, this character is on a banner with Valentine Bourbon. Valentine Bourbon has meta implications. She is a very good frontrunner for her ease of building frontrunners. So if you want to get into the frontrunner game and you enjoy this character, you have additional value because you essentially, your pity will not be wasted. So if you pull, let's say it takes you 30 pulls to get Valentine Bourbon, but you want Eishin Flash because you're an Oshi for Eishin Flash, you only have 170 more to go. Getting to 200 isn't the end of the world. You basically have 2 hits instead of 1. You cannot get this character through the first anniversary selector ticket. You will have to wait until, I believe, the 1.5 anniversary selector. So, if you like this character, especially if you don't have another Eishin Flash copy and you're an Oshi gamer, this is a perfectly fine pull as long as your pull plan is not sacrificed. Let's talk about the character. She is almost purpose-built for medium races. However, as with all Eishin Flashes, she is a medium-long racer. Specifically in the late surge position, you can put her in pace or end. Her ultimate actually works pretty well in end closing. Pace chasers, you may not be able to proc her ult, but that is sort of a stake too juicy situation, as we'll talk about. You can force her into mile pretty decently. It does take a pink spark. But most of the mile tracks, her ultimate does not work very well, as we will talk about. So mostly a medium track runner, can be run in mediums and longs as a strategy, as late surger, pace chaser, and or end closer. Specifically, she does have stuff that helps her with late surger. Her stat bonuses, the issue with her stat bonuses, if you've been playing Agnes Digital, 8% stat bonus is very weird because it does not give you enough to go fully into a strategy. So I hesitate to suggest the power build because while you do get a little bit of bonus, it's more of a nice to have than an actual effective metric to really be able to either run solo power or run double power consistently. However, her whip bonus does help quite a bit, especially in the mediums and longs, which is what she is built for. Sprints and miles, you have to force her in this. You can incorporate a power card to help you essentially get your power up because that 8% is going to get you usually enough with Rico in the mile races. For mediums and longs, which is what she's really built for, you can consider running a solo whip build in the current meta. Make a new track or track blazer, whatever you want to call it, is going to change all the builds up. But even when we go back to normalcy, the solo whip build is going to be very good on her because what it's going to do is going to increase the threshold of your whip taps so that when you're running a solo whip tap, you don't feel bad about running just fine motion. And then when fine motion's on it, it's going to be like 30 instead of 22. When you have Fuku on it, like a really good wit output card, it's going to be like in the mid to high 20s instead of like 19 to 15, which just kind of feels bad. So it increases your wit taps up to a good threshold where you don't really have to consider not tapping it. That makes sense. So my suggestions, even though, like I said, this has 8% power bonus, the stamina build I think is just sort of better right now. It's just more comfy. If you're a newer player, you can basically use the additional wit card slot, especially on longs, to either add another speed card because you have 0% speed bonus, or you can run a ton of speed sparks, go down to 2 speed cards and run either a power or a second stamina. I would suggest second stamina because then you can get to the thresholds for longs required faster. Again, it's more of a new player strategy. If you are more seasoned and you have better cards, you're probably already doing this anyways. You're probably doing a solo creek build. You know what you're doing, but consider running solo wit on this character because of the wit bonus. Her ultimate, Guten Appetit, increased velocity continuously with the patisserie's pride on the final straight after passing another runner 3 times on the final corner or later. Notably on Game Tora, her conditions state change order up final corner after greater than or equal to 2, not 3, which leads me to believe this is buffed in the future, as this is the Japan version, and is last straight 1. This works a lot like winning ticket alt. Essentially, if you complete the quest, let's say, or you complete the condition of change order final corner up 2 or 3, depending on which version it's going to be, it will proc on first timing at the straight. Notably, in miles and sprints, the final straight is usually too close to the spurt to have any real effect because you're getting it eaten up by the acceleration zone. Mediums and longs, you will not have this problem. Basically, this alt kind of works like Rudolph alt. We're going to assume 3 for now. You pass 3 people. However, Eishin Flash's alt, you can pre-pass. So in the mid-race, you can use your skills to pass people on the corner for when the spurt happens. And then on the final straight, it will proc. At the same time, a lot of the medium and long races, they're pretty interchangeable and in fact, Eishin Flashes is a little bit worse in that case because a lot of longs and some mediums, the final corner is past the late race, which is Rudolph's timing, and this is what leads me to believe that this ultimate was eventually buffed to only 2 passes. In addition, base duration 6 seconds, 0.35 target speed, where Rudolph's has 5 seconds and 0.45 target speed. If you do the math and you have 0.35 times the 6 seconds, so you get 2.1 speed seconds. Rudolph has 0.45 times 5, which is 2.25 speed seconds. Essentially, Rudolph's alt just gives you more lengths. It's as simple as that. If they both were proccing, considering all of other stuff notwithstanding, Rudolph alt will give you slightly more lengths than Eishin Flash. And I think this is the reason why they reduced it to 2 eventually, because it makes it easier to proc than Rudolph's alt in that case. Technically, this can proc earlier if you get unlucky, but in that situation, you're not winning the race anyways if you're not passing people. So, also, the other thing that's really notable is that in an inherit version, Rudolph's alt goes to 0.25, hers goes to 0.15, and despite its additional duration of 3.6, this is truly just another white skill. So, there's less parent potential, whereas stuff like Rudolph, Triumphant Pulse, Team Opera O, those were the parents that were above the rest. So as for an inherit, standard white skill. Let's talk about her skills. She has a couple general skills. Homestretch Haste is good, has the problem of sometimes in shorter tracks, it gets eaten up by the acceleration zone. If you build her for medium long, you won't have that problem, but it always has the chance of proccing late on the final straight, in the last spurt rather, and in that case you get partial duration and it's not as good. So Homestretch Haste is a very good late race speed skill, but it can get clipped. Long Shot is good if you are in 4th or worse. It's a green skill. Notably, you get Long Shot, Tokyo Racecourse, Standard Distance. If you force a front runner, I guess if you're lucky and it happens to be a Tokyo Standard Distance, you have 3 greens for groundwork already. These greens are gotten by her secret event, and we will talk about that in a second. As for her skills that are purpose-built for her role, generally she has a couple more late surge skills than the other roles. She has no pace chaser, no end closer skills. But in late surge, you get late surge corners, which is very good on every map, basically. You get position pilfer, which position pilfer, as we talked about in Aquarius Cup, in miles and shorts essentially, the final corner skills and the corner skills are better than the mid-race skills because they have a higher chance of speed carryover. However, in mediums and longs, a lot of times the final corner is, actually I think in every single medium and long race, the final corner is past the spurt. So final corner skills will always proc as a late race speed skill and never speed carryover. And Professor of Curvature corner skills have a chance of hitting a dead zone as well as a chance of being a late race speed skill instead of a mid-race speed skill. In this track in particular, and a lot of medium tracks, there's no corner that can speed carry over at all. In this case, position pilfer is pretty decent because it technically has a little bit of space where it can speed carry over and give you additional effect. I'm going to grab some water, sorry. Fighter is a little bit troublesome because, unfortunately, because the game calculates 15 seconds out at your current speed, a lot of times you are going to pass somebody at some point because of a high wit roll or any sort of skill. You most likely will proc fighter pretty early. It is technically useful in the early game a little bit when it hits that acceleration zone at the first 5 seconds of the race. After that, of course. But other than that, it will almost never, and I don't think I've ever seen it actually proc in the acceleration zone properly. So fighter's kind of a dead skill, but has some minor niche usage in the early game. But you're kind of gambling with pace down. All right, so her schedule. She has secret events, and the secret event for her is to do Tokyo races. If you do 2 or more, you get a Tokyo race course and speed. If you do 3 or more, you get some power. And if you do 5 or more, you get some stamina in addition to the speed or power, as well as standard distance and Tokyo race course. Notably, in her objectives, she has a pretty standard medium-long, where you just run all the medium and long G1s. You run the senior triple crown, I believe. Let's see. Tennosho Spring, Osaka High. You do not run the Taza, so you don't have this senior triple crown, but you do notably have 3 Tokyo races in the Japanese Derby, Japan Cup, and Tennosho Autumn. If you sweep all 3 of those, which I don't believe, these first 2 do not have first place requirements, you will at the very least get the middle one. If you get second place and first place on these, let's say, you will get the first one alone. Generally, when you are running a few extra races, you'll probably run some G1s in Tokyo, you'll run some G2s in Tokyo. It's quite easy to get this win. This is G1s only, apologies. If you run 5 G1 races in Tokyo, which I believe is all of them, sorry about that, G1s only. If you win 5 G1 races, you get all of this here. So you find the 2 other G1s, you put them together, you win all 5, you get lucky, you get standard distance. Otherwise, you're probably getting one of these 2, to be honest. Notably, this is all disabled in Make a New Track or Track Blazer, whatever you want to call it. So it'll be back more when we get into Grand Live. All right, so her golds. You can run her as a debuffer with Dominator. So she's a speed debuffer. So she joins the ranks of Agnes Tachyon, of Symboli Rudolph Regular, as well as Grass Wonder. I would suggest if you're running her debuffer, that you run her with 2 debuffers and an ace to help your ace out. Otherwise, if you are building her as an ace, she comes with Flash Forward, which is why she is a medium horse. Because Flash Forward is medium straightaways gold, notably straightaways technically can proc at the start or the end of the race. If it procs at the start of the race, it generally has the same effectiveness no matter what the strength is because of pace down. But in mediums and long tracks, you generally have at least 3 straights, so it's like a 1 in 3 for that to happen. And usually the straights are right before the spurt, so normally the straight skills will be possible speed carryover. So you're essentially gambling speed carryover mid-race skill, or it's a late race skill, which is also good, or it's a pace down breaker. So it pulls double duty in a lot of cases. So this is really her bread and butter. This is her new skill that she's introducing to the game, Flash Forward. It will be available in other places, but for now, this is what her unique thing is. So for CM Viability for Aquarius Cup, she is not a dirt track racer, so you will have to force her. In addition, her ult doesn't really work very well because the final straight is very close to the actual spurt, and so her ult is going to get eaten up by the acceleration zone. Otherwise, for the next 4 of them are longs or mediums. The Pisces Cup is a long track, so you won't get any of the medium skills. However, her ultimate works because the final straight is far enough away from the spurt, and you will be able to pass people on this corner, and then this spurt is long enough for 6 seconds. Notably, you may not have enough time because if you hit an acceleration up here, you may not have anyone to pass by this final corner. You may have 1 person to pass. It's only really an issue if you're in second place, honestly. Otherwise, it's just a stake too juicy situation. Hey, if you're in first place, you don't really need the speed anyways, right? So, it's a long track. He probably isn't the best to run on it, but if you are an Oshi, it's certainly viable to play. Aries Cup. And if you're noticing, I'm not really putting her skills on here because her skills are kind of just universally medium skills. So they kind of just all work on the medium track. On the medium track of Aries Cup, which is Nakayama 2000, it's the same thing. essentially you want to proc an acceleration and then pass people on this final corner, and then it will first time on the final straight, and this has a long enough spurt that you utilize the full 6 seconds. So it is very good in an Aries Cup. Same thing with Taurus Cup. Taurus Cup, the corner is almost exactly on the spurt, which means technically you may not pass people just fast enough. If you proc late on the corner, let's say with let's pump some iron into 6th place, etc., or on your left. But the spurt is actually, the final straightaway is actually long enough that you have a little bit of wiggle room, that if you pass somebody late, you still have 6 seconds. This is like a 10-second-ish straight. It'll be perfectly fine. And it's really just every single medium track she is quite decent on, because you hit the acceleration on the spurt, Cancer Cup, hands you 2200 meter. Final corner you pass, and then you have a straight to actually execute the speed increase. Notably, however, like I said, she's no Christmas Liguri, especially on this Taurus Cup. We're going to have trouble with Christmas Liguri having 777 timing. It's going to be perfect proc acceleration, and you're really going to have to gamble on late surgery accelerations, or basically just late surgery accelerations, to really try to fight that. So this is going to be the Liguri cap track. A lot of these will be. They have decent timings, right? But she doesn't really give you anything to fight that in terms of accelerations, but she does give you the late race speed, and that's kind of where you get your lengths back, is that you're going to fall behind because of the subpar accelerations, and you're going to try to get your late race speed skills to get back into the mix. In conclusion, she is a medium track specialist. She has almost all medium skills. She helps you out with late skills. This is a pretty simple character. She's on a thing with Valentine Bourbon. If you get her, she is usable. She is not a dead weight. She's not Eishin Flash regular. Gets a lot of flack because her skills aren't very good. She's Eishin Flash regular is a team trial Zuma. This is certainly CM viable, at least for the near future. We will talk about Eishin Flash. We'll talk about Valentine Bourbon in a day or two. I'll get that video out before the banner is released, hopefully. Hope you've enjoyed. VBourbon.